Well guys, by now you've probably heard of this little game called Cyberpunk 2077. I actually just did like a long form analysis piece on what the game is all these 100-something days later. You should check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But we got a little bit of Cyberpunk news that I think has ramifications for all of gaming. And then there's this article that I think really encapsulates a lot of the problems with the game. But I want to talk about the news first and then kind of go from there, because the news is really strange, mostly because let me just get into it and you'll see what's so weird about it. So in an interview with Reuters, head of CD Projekt Red was talking about all sorts of things. What the game is, what the game's becoming, how it's impacted CD Projekt Red, what the studio's doing moving forward. And Reuters asked, what are the options moving forward with CD Projekt Red? What happens from here? And basically what he said was that giving up on Cyberpunk 2077 is not an option for the studio. He literally says, I don't see an option to shelve Cyberpunk 2077. We are convinced that we can bring the game to such a state that we can be proud of it and therefore successfully sell it for years to come. Now there's a lot more weird actually in all of this, but before I get to the more weird of this news story, I want to address just this little piece because this really upset me. I don't normally get like emotionally attached to the things we talk about with games, but this is bad. This is a bad quote, and he thought he was saying something good. He thought he had something here. What he said was, again, I'll read it word for word. We are convinced we can bring this game to such a state that we can be proud of it and therefore successfully sell it for years to come. Here is the problem with this quote. First off, that is a clear admission that they were not proud of this game before launch. There's nothing more clear than that. They're saying the product you're playing right now, they are not proud of. This again, by the way, if you're confused, there was no like, oh, it came out and it didn't work. CD Projekt Red internally knew the game didn't work. They didn't know, there wasn't one of those things where like, we don't know what we're releasing. Games are tested forever before they launch. Games start testing as soon as there's playable builds. I mean, it wasn't a surprise to them. So him sitting here saying that we are confident we can get it into a place where we are proud of it, that's something you say before you launch your game. That is never, ever something you say after you launch your game. Let me be clear. Even if that's true, even if you're confident that you can get it to a place where you're proud of it post-launch, don't say that out loud. Don't tell somebody that. Don't let that run in an article. Don't tell an interviewer that you're confident you can get the game somewhere that you're proud of. You cannot recover from that moving forward. This is the line. This line right here is the line that in my head I will be playing back 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, when the next CD Projekt Red game comes out. Because what I will know is that they are more than willing to release a game they are admittedly not proud of, and I don't want to wait until they get proud of it. I especially don't want to wait for it after I paid with it. The second half of this is them saying that we can successfully sell this game for years to come. Okay, let's talk about that. What he's implying here in a roundabout way is that we can pull a No Man's Sky. Yeah, that's really the best and most current and obvious example of this. Rainbow Six Siege doesn't really count. Warframe doesn't really count. The only thing that's had this dramatic of a problem and this much hype has been No Man's Sky. There are a list of reasons why CD Projekt Red will not be able to sell this game for years to come like No Man's Sky. So let me talk about a couple things before I get to the article that explains incredibly well why they won't be able to do that. So let's start with No Man's Sky. What was No Man's Sky? Everybody knows what No Man's Sky is by now. No Man's Sky made dramatic, insane, just absurd promises. Billions of planets, unlimited this, explore this, get to the center of the universe. It'll take you 8 billion years. You'll have to have 5 generations of children before you get there. Then like 24 hours later, people are at the center of the galaxy going, what the hell is this? That's no good, obviously. But here's the thing about No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky failed so dramatically because its promises were so unprecedented. It made promises that were simply technological impossibilities, to be frank. And it took them years to recover, but they recovered by turning it into an entirely different game. However, the foundation for No Man's Sky was there. That's why you've heard things like the foundation update and all that stuff. The foundation for No Man's Sky was there. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 doesn't have the same foundation. So let me turn to this Rock Paper Shotgun article. So this article written by Alice Bell basically talks about why Cyberpunk 2077 is in a position that it doesn't make a lot of sense to wait for it to be a better game because it will never become a better game. She's mostly talking about these frequent and now relatively immediate hotfixes that CD Projekt Red keeps deploying to kind of fix Cyberpunk. But I talked about this a bit in my video a couple of weeks ago now, and she makes some excellent points. So let me talk about those real quick. First, I want to say this. Let's not forget, CD Projekt Red spent at least some of their resources thinking about and developing Cyberpunk's multiplayer suite. From the very beginning, we heard about this multiplayer suite for Cyberpunk. So, with that being said, what we now know is CD Projekt Red went, yeah, we can't do that, and so now they're not doing that. And they also went, yeah, maybe we shouldn't make so many promises in the future, so keep all those things in mind. So Alice here talks about a lot of what the patches fix, what they don't fix, and then goes on to the end and says, the thing is though, that all these patches make the game more stable and finished. It runs more proper-like, but these patches can't make it a better game. She compares it to Bloodlines Masquerade, which is a fair comparison, and says that whereas Bloodlines patches elevated what was already there, here, in Cyberpunk, they've mostly served to underline the biggest problems that Cyberpunk has that can't be patched out. She goes on to say, can I request a patch to totally overhaul hacking to make it less like a kind of tedious Sudoku? To make stealth and net running a viable way to play the game, because right now I feel like it's just a tool to prepare for when I have to start shooting just like every other playstyle. For a story to interrogate any of the themes in an interesting way. Are there planned hotfixes making V's origin story actually consequential to the rest of the game? Brain dancing being more of an actual thing because it's really cool and you only get to do it a few times. Jackie being a nice man but having more time with him, and she goes on and on and on. And she goes on to quote Adam Kaczynski once again, who tells Reuters that they're convinced again that they can bring the game to a state that they're proud of. So let's look at the roadmap and then address this really quick. What is Cyberpunk 2077's roadmap? Well, it's number one, stupid looking. There's probably a graph right here. Nothing shows that your game doesn't work and you have no idea what you're doing. Then there's a barren landscape of a roadmap. I don't know what the graphic designer at CD Projekt Red was thinking, but I'd imagine he handed this in to somebody and somebody went, I don't see anything here. And they all went, yeah, that's about right. Look at this thing. Why would they release this? Why would they release this graph like this? It's like a red flag for anybody looking to buy the game. And it's not like a red flag that says sorry across it. It's like a red flag like, look how cool this looks and how proud of this roadmap we are. Don't be. If I can spend 30 minutes in Photoshop and randomly think of a bunch of crap to put on here and it looks a lot like yours, there's a problem there. But the roadmap says that in 2021, we'll get patch 1.1, patch 1.2, multiple updates and improvements, and then it just says free DLCs somewhere in the middle of 2021 and a free next-gen console update somewhere towards the end of 2021. What does this mean? What is this? This is not a roadmap. Why did you release this? Alice Bell's point here is that no amount of patching Cyberpunk and no amount of adding content is going to fix the game's foundational problems, and she brings up quite a few of them. One of them being that this game is just simply not innovative in the genre or fresh in the genre in any real way outside of its setting and its world, which those two things it does do well. But more pertinently, we keep hearing this like, we're gonna bring this up to something we're proud of. Okay, with what? Because I'm looking at this roadmap on my phone right now, and up to 2022, I'm looking at basically nothing. Do you know why this roadmap says essentially nothing? You know why it says free DLCs and free next-gen console update? Two reasons. The one reason it says free DLC is because they have no clue what that means right now. None. They have no idea what that looks like, and they don't want to say what they think it's going to look like, because what they know right now is that they probably can't deliver on these things. What they're going to do is they're going to try to fix the game, not fix it, rush out free DLC that's going to be just the furthest thing from an apology content that you could possibly get, and then they're going to look around and go, why aren't people stoked about this? I don't understand. Avengers did the same thing. Marvel's Avengers did the same thing. They don't fix the game. They rush out the Hawkeye content. No one thinks it's great. It's not a good enough apology for the problems. And then they go, I don't understand why we're losing so much money. My man, what are you confused about? CD Projekt Red, just by this roadmap, and this roadmap is not new by the way, just by this roadmap, and through saying things like, we're gonna eventually get this to a place that we're proud of, tells me that A, when you look at those two things side by side, one, they don't know what get this to a point where they're proud of it even means. Look, the reality of the situation is really, really simple. Right now, Cyberpunk is profitable for them, right? We have heard all of this before, and this is why I'm making this video. Everything we're hearing from CD Projekt Red right now, we've heard before, and very recently. Do you know where we've heard this before and very recently? EA with Anthem. We heard what from EA and Anthem? We heard we're gonna fix this game. We're not gonna give up on this. We're gonna put a whole studio on it. We're gonna have them revamp everything. We're gonna call this Anthem Next, Anthem 2.0. Here's a really vague roadmap, and then we're gonna work on just revolutionizing this thing. We are not gonna give up on this. No matter how long it takes, we're gonna get there. We're gonna make this something we're proud of. Don't believe me? We're around for the Anthem cycle? Just Google it. Take a look at it. I'm sure there's something on your screen right now that indicates all of that. That was very recent. And then what happened? We all know what happened. EA finally went, you know what? People aren't coming back to this game like we thought they would. And it's not gonna make us enough money, and we don't think enough people are gonna come back. So, you know what? Forget about it. Let's just leave it. Anthem was fine. We tried. Round of applause for those of us that, you know, put out the updates. That was EA's stance. And what did EA do? They literally abandoned the game. All that stuff they said, Anthem next? There is no next. Next, we're shutting you down. Next, no more Anthem. Next, oh, you were a fan? Too bad. Anthem next game. I'm not really sure what the point of believing anything that's coming out of CD Projekt Red's mouth right now is, because there is no goodwill here. I say it a million times, and I'll say it a million more. Gaming companies are not your friends. Everybody went into this game thinking, well, look at all the cool content we got for Witcher 3, and look at how they talked to the community and how they supported that game. That's great. That's fine. It's really easy to do that when your game is selling millions and millions and millions of copies. Where we really find out what a studio stands for and what their leadership stands for is when their game isn't the biggest hit of a generation. Where we find out what a studio stands for is what happens next, right? When they're challenged. It's the same thing with sports. You always hear it all the time. You know, we don't know what a real champion is until they face adversity. You know, what happens when that undefeated boxer, you know, gets knocked down once? What happens when that undefeated fighter, you know, gets submitted one time? What does he come back and do? That's the mark of a champion. It's the same thing with games, right? What happens when you face adversity? And what CD Projekt Red has done when they face adversity is put out a completely incompetent product, be completely incompetent with the response to the point where a publisher and a console maker pulls their game from their service and then puts out a roadmap that's empty and then continues to say a bunch of empty gaming and marketing jargon that means absolutely nothing. We know their worth. Will they fix Cyberpunk? I don't know. I can tell you right now they're not going to spend the next 3 years fixing it, which is what that game needs content-wise. I can promise you that. If you think that internally at CD Projekt Red there are not already conversations about what's next, you have lost your mind. Of course there are. So the question then becomes, is how financially responsible is it for us to continue to do this? Because in their heads, you know, we slipped up a bit. We turn around and we give them Witcher 4 though. They're gonna forget all about this. How much money do we need to spend here? So keep that in mind as this cycle continues. That's why I want to make this video. Please, please, please do not buy into this whole we're going to be proud of it one day thing. We've seen this over and over and over and over again. Man, I cannot tell you how broken Skyrim still is. The difference is that's still a great game. I cannot tell you how broken Fallout 76 still is. I cannot tell, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And to the credit of Fallout 76, actually, that game is much better now. But the point is it's still never going to be what people really wanted it to be. That's a problem. So keep that in mind as we move forward. But now I want to know what you guys think. You know, are you playing Cyberpunk 2077? Are you going to play Cyberpunk 2077? Are you waiting for something? I mean, where do you stand on all of this? I'm genuinely curious because I've put a lot of time, as you guys know, into Cyberpunk. If you have not seen my video, it's a deep dive into my time with it, what happened post-launch, where it's at now, all sorts of stuff. So you can check that out. It's in the color series on the channel. But yeah, where do you guys stand? Are you guys going to keep playing this game? How do you feel about it? What's next for you in Cyberpunk? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, press the like button down below. If you haven't yet done so, hit subscribe too. That just makes sure you don't miss anything. Also hit the little bell. I've talked about this a lot, but right now the only way anybody's getting notified my videos are out is if you hit that bell. So hit the bell and that'll make sure you get notified. And on your screen right now should be 2 more videos. Really quickly, upload schedule stays the same for the most part. As long as there's a long form video to be made, that'll come Wednesdays. Mondays, What a Weird Week, 2 news videos, Friday, Sunday, with a little bit of leeway in between those. And yeah.